Good evening, everyone. You are in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Thursday, April the 21st, 2016. It's in the spotlight 4-on-1 show coming at you here on this Thursday night. Our second of two shows this week. We come on the air tonight with heavy hearts. There's obviously been, it's been, it's weird. Um, I think if you pay attention and you read the news or you obviously most with social media and all the news stations out there and everything. Obviously, by now it's kind of hard to get away from the news, really. Even if there used to be a time when you wouldn't hear something it seemed like most people did. Um, so nowadays it's kind of hard to do that with social media and everything else. But I mean, over the years, I think we've all experienced this. We know that there's been times where a great deal of celebrities and pass away, and you get these periods where it seems like it's one after the other, after the other, after the other. And we Tuesday night we started our show by talking about the passing of Doris Roberts, and on a wrestling side of things, Balls Mahoney last week and Blackjack Mulligan, and we spoke about those two, and you know, and then today, um, we're on the air and we're going to be mentioning a couple of people. One from the sports world that even though some people might think it's more of a local thing for us, this particular athlete did make a national impact in a number of ways. That being Dwayne Pearl Washington, and we'll talk about him in a few moments. Also, on the wrestling side of things, we lost China last night, and obviously she was a very influential figure, and we'll talk about her. And then, of course, this afternoon, which was just it's something that sent shockwaves through everywhere, really, if you think about it, because it has that kind of impact. Very much reminds me of the day that we found out Michael Jackson had passed away. Very much that the discussion and just the way it kind of just impacted everyone. Prince passed away today at the age of 57, which again is, I mean, China at 45, Prince at 57. Just it's shocking. And so we have a couple of mentions to make here at the top of the show before we get going, because again, this is, I say this all the time, and it's true. No matter what we talk about tonight, nothing's more important than what we're going to discuss here right now. And all these figures I just mentioned have made huge impacts beyond not only what they did for a living, but in other ways as well. So I see my co-host Mike is on here. Mike in the spotlight here. I'm gonna let him start and give his thoughts on all three of these people, because again, their impact is just, and then I'll add on and we'll go from there. Mike, do you want to go ahead?
Can we all admit that today pretty much sucks?
Yeah.
Today was pretty terrible.
Very.
Well, in terms of loss, look, China, for everything she's done later in life, depression. That was a thing. She apparently she was undiagnosed, or maybe was diagnosed. She was dealing with grief at the end. But for everything she's done, she was her influence in wrestling is just almost unparalleled, because few women were ever booked as strong and as important as she was. She was the Intercontinental Champion. She was the Women's Champion. She was always treated as a big deal, and she did Playboy. She was the first Playboy Playmate, I think, out of WWE. Joni Laurer, China's real name, she was like a once in a lifetime kind of thing, and she was just as human, just as like what's the word? It's hard to find the words because China was an awfully big loss.
Mm-hmm.
China was an awfully big loss in wrestling. I mean, hell, Triple H finally said something nice about her for the first time in, I don't know, since they broke up. Sad but true. But China was a huge loss. She was groundbreaking. She did things. She reminded women that they don't just have to settle for their own division. They could supersede that. They can become more.
Mm-hmm.
China was always a big deal. China was always a big deal. I mean, yeah, later on in life, she did porn. She did. She had her demons that she was working out. But you know what? Regardless of it all, China had an amazing life, an amazing career, and she will be missed. And I was talking to Justin about this earlier, and I said it's sad. It's like now she's almost guaranteed to be in the Hall of Fame.
Mm.
Now WWE is almost guaranteed her in the Hall of Fame. Maybe as soon as next year.
Yeah.
And it's sad that she could, like, for being such a large figure, and then Triple H is like, well, I can't put her in now. Can't put her in yet because, when my daughters look up China, what are they going to see?
Mm.
And that was his excuse, but there's a lot of
there's more to it than
there's
that.
a lot there's always more to it. And it had especially at the end, they were engaged to be married, and he broke it off and kind of hooked up with Stephanie, and that just kind of happened. But it's sad.
Mm.
She was a big deal in pro wrestling. She broke the traditional, like, gender and sex roles in pro wrestling. She was like the first woman to do that, and she's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And it's sad that she can't experience that in life.
Right.
It's sad that we've come to this point, and if you really want to read more about China, Mick Foley has an excellent and amazing and very touching a Facebook post, and it's on his Facebook page. And if you don't follow Mick already, you should follow Mick Foley. His thing was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So, and good Lord, we lost Prince too. Speaking of breaking traditional roles, Prince made it okay to dress like a lady. It was okay. But Prince, oh Jesus!
Oh my, I know. I don't even know where you start, to be honest.
I don't know where you start, because Prince was a legend. Prince was a legend in music. His influence, you could almost say he was the next generation's David Bowie.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And that he never settled for one genre of music. He was a pioneer of pop. He brought back funk. He was an R&B legend. It's like, what more can you ask? I mean, Prince had a hell of a run. Like David Bowie, the parallels to Bowie are pretty astounding. He just had another album coming out.
Mm-hmm.
He had another album and another tour. Like it's like fascinating. but it's incredibly sad because he 50 something years old,
Mm,
50 something years old for Prince,
57.
57 years old.
Hmm.
And you know what? I mean, the more and more come out about Prince, like this came out around the Chappelle show. Charlie Murphy
Yeah.
told the story about how Prince was a surprisingly excellent basketball player. And then more stories came out. It was kind of revealed today that not only Prince was undersized, so he was a reserve, but Prince was one of the best basketball players on his team, and would typically play basketball wearing the heels, wearing the get up, and he would school people. And the Revolution weren't bad. Prince was an impressive dude, many talents. And he's just as human as everybody. I mean, there was a quote from one of his songs that were kind of making the rounds today. Quite making the rounds.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could find it. But it was just one of the most prolific and important musicians of the era. And he's gone way too soon. So, and this is on top of Doris Roberts. This is on top of Pearl Washington. Are we talking about Pearl Washington?
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And here's the thing about Pearl. Dwayne Pearl Washington was probably he was the premier. He was the premier basketball player at Syracuse. He's the reason a lot of the other guys came to Syracuse, other than Dave Bing.
Right.
It was before his time. He was. It's even hard to describe. Pearl Washington was one of the greatest players in Syracuse history. He was one of the greatest players in Big East history. When you look at the Big East, Pearl Washington is a part of that history. Pearl Washington is one of the premier players. You have to include him in any conversation.
Right.
You have to include him in any conversation of the greatest players in the Big East. He has to be included in the conversation of the greatest players in college basketball history.
Yeah.
Because he was. I'm trying to find that song by Prince. Let's Go Crazy. That's what the song's called. Pearl Washington is just. He's a huge loss for the community. He's a huge loss for Syracuse basketball. He was, and forever will be, one of the legends here. And yeah, he was a Nets draft pick, and injuries cut his career short, and it's too bad. And it's really too bad because he could have been a huge star in the NBA. And I wish he was, because the man deserved it. It was fascinating and fantastic. You know what? And he was huge in this community. He was huge in basketball. He is going to be forever missed. Good Lord. This week sucked in terms of.
Gosh, yeah.
This week sucked in terms of just loss on a celebrity level, on a sports level.
I'm telling you, we get these.
Rough week.
We get these periods. I was mentioning this at the start. It always seems like you get these. It's sad. It always happens bunched together. We get like several in a row, and there's an old saying they come in threes, and Doris we talked about on Tuesday, and her presence and how amazing she was, and yesterday we lost Pearl, and I know for a lot of people, unless you're a huge college basketball fan. If you're a huge college basketball fan, you probably, at the very least, grew up on the Big East. Pearl Washington was there when the Big East got built. Okay, he was there at the time when Syracuse Georgetown was at its like highest peak, and it built the Big East. You know, that the conference that we were losing in its truest form, he helped build it. Along with Dave Gavitt, who has passed away as well, may rest in peace, and so many others. You know, and if you haven't watched pro play, I didn't. I was too young, but I growing up, I got the chance to watch a lot of old games. We're fortunate enough that our cable station here oftentimes puts on classic games, and I've been able to check out a lot of Pearl Washington games and footage. And my God, he was a phenomenal basketball player. And like Mike said, if he had never gotten injured, I think he could have been a very big star in the NBA. He had all the skills to be able to do it. But the biggest thing about him, other than what he did on the basketball court, was he was a tremendous human being. Very humble. The impact he had on this community that we live in right here was tremendous. Mike knows, you could walk down to our mall and you could see Pearl Washington walking around
all the time. He'd run camps here too in the summer. I played for one of them. He was a very generous guy with his time.
Yes,
he was. He really went out of his way to mentor young players in the area. If you were serious, and even if you weren't, if you had a passing interest in organized basketball in the area, chances are you ran into Pearl Washington at some point. And he was a very, very, very nice guy.
Oh, he give, the amount of time that he would give to anybody, just somebody randomly that walks up to him and just wants to say hi to him. He'd sit there and have a full conversation with you. He would not rush you. He would not be at all unengaged. He was that kind of person, and he gave back to the community, gave back to the university, to the area, and that's the kind of thing. And that's why, throughout this situation and with his health and, the players wearing the Pearl shirts, which I thought was a nice thing to do. There's a reason why his loss is so huge. Not that it wouldn't be anyway, but it's on a different level because of how embedded he was in this community. And, it wasn't just what he did on the court, what he did off the court. He never really left this community. He was always involved here, always engaged here, always involved in something, giving his time, giving whatever the case may be. And that's something that, it's a very special thing. It's a very special, not that there's a lot of athletes, celebrities, whatever, that do the same thing. But they don't, there might not be some that do as much. Okay. He was just on another level with that. And he is an icon in this area. There's no doubt about it. We lost, really these three that we lost were icons over the last 2 days in their own ways. We lost an icon in Pearl. MSG put a graphic up. MSG put a graphic up thanking him, which I thought was a wonderful thing to do. Sports Center did several wonderful pieces that I thought were really good, and I'm glad they did them. Very good pieces on him. May he rest in peace, and our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody that impacted by his loss. He's a one of a kind. Jim Boeheim, probably saw him today, broken up about it. This one hurts, and we knew it was coming, but he was one of a kind. No doubt about it. And then you mentioned, now my experience with China, watching China, isn't very vast. I've seen a couple clips of her. I wasn't a big wrestling fan back when she was active or anything like that, but I know of her. I know a little bit about the history, and I know that she deserved to be a Hall of Famer. And again, as Mike noted, it's a shame that she won't be able to live to see that. But I do know about her impact, and he noted breaking gender barriers in wrestling, and just the image of her is just so. It's such a iconic kind of thing. She was an icon in the wrestling business because of all that she brought and all that she represented. And look, she did some things after, personal things and everything, which we those alone for now. Her impact is very, very vast, and it should not go disregarded. And, you mentioned Mick Foley's post, and it was a wonderful, wonderful post. I highly recommend people reading it because it kind of shows you a very good side to China that some people might forget about. So again, to her family, friends, and loved ones, thoughts and prayers and condolences, and may she rest in peace. A tremendous, tremendous talent. And then Prince, who I mentioned, it reminds me a lot of the day that Michael Jackson passed away, and it does. It's just and David Bowie's did as well. When he passed away. I mean, we lost David Bowie this year, and now we lost Prince. I mean, and then Lemmy earlier too. I mean, there's just so many. We lost so many musical legends. We lost a lot of legends and icons in recent years, and this does the impact of Prince is it's just huge. I was just talking to my wife off the air about, and he's got many, obviously, many vast songs and things that he's done over the years. He's had such a cultural impact, just like David Bowie did, very big cultural impact. But my first exposure to Prince, and this is gonna be very fitting because anybody that's ever talked to me off the air knows what a big Batman fan I am. The 1989 Batman soundtrack, Bat Dance, that emblematic scene of Jack Nicholson's Joker going around the art museum. I mean, he did a lot of that. He did that soundtrack. So many of those songs. I mean, that's my first exposure to Prince, and I remember I still listen to those songs sometimes. It's and then Purple Rain. I remember a couple years ago. It was a couple years ago he performed at the Super Bowl, right? Halftime show, I believe. It was very recent.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and you noted he was going to have some new material, and he was doing a tour, and he canceled a couple of tour dates because he had he come down with the flu, and he missed the con. Then he went out and did a concert the next night after coming down with the flu after having an emergency landing his plane. He wanted to reassure fans he was okay, and then I guess recently he canceled a couple of tour dates, and he had some health issues. And the thing about Prince was he was a very subdued presence. Anybody that ever met him or you see him in interviews, that he was a very subdued, calming presence. It was to himself. I mean, he still knew things, but he was very to himself. And but he still had this vibrancy about him, obviously by what he wore, by his the performance quality, which is, I've known people, a few of you, I talked to you off the air over the years, said Prince was among your favorite concert experience you ever had if you were lucky enough to see him. He was amazing. He was a great performer, and his impact is just, I don't even know if you can really put it into words on just music, but also pop culture as well. He transcended genres. There's just so much you can say about him, and another musical icon has passed. And again, may he rest in peace, and to his fans, his loved ones, condolences to you all. It's a tremendous. That's a huge loss. All these losses are huge, and again, it's just we go through these periods where it's like one after the other, after the other, after the other, and they're rough. It's rough. It's been a rough couple of days. It really has. But we're gonna. Like I said, nothing else we talk about tonight is going to be as important, not even close to as important. But we go on here and try to do the rest of the show, even though we're kind of like, this has been horrible. So as always, if you want to have your voice heard, be a part of the show. In whatever way we have you react or whatever the case may be, have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411, hashtag ITS5, which represents our 5th anniversary on the year of the podcast. Or you can use hashtag ITS, anything you want. Be creative. You can add stuff to hashtag ITS and see what you end up with, but just don't try to be offensive because that's not good. You don't want to be offensive. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook and make sure you like our page upon finding it. A couple of things for tonight. This is our entertainment show for the week here. Even though it is our entertainment show, we'll keep you up to date on all the NBA playoff scores. There are some NBA playoff games going on tonight. I'll update you on those scores. If anything big is going down, we'll be sure to break in and do some quick discussion of whatever that big thing development is. Otherwise, we'll go more in depth and talk about all the games that transpire on our Tuesday show next week when we talk about sports. So keep that in mind. But this is entertainment. We'll be doing box office beat, TV highlights. There's a special spotlight feature we're going to do tonight, focusing on current trends entertainment, film, TV, and also talk about the future of film and TV. We wanted to go more broad. I explained this on Tuesday. We talked about certain things across, it's more specific, but we're going to go a little more broad here and, go about it in more broad terms. And then, if we have some time, we'll do a couple of little entertainment news bits, and that'll be the show tonight. So that's what we got on tap for you tonight. Next week we have Tuesday will be a sports entertainment combo show. We'll be talking, I think, all major highlights from sports, primarily NBA playoff coverage. Anything else we have to cover, we'll cover on the sports side of things. We will not do any wrestling coverage. I'll explain why on Tuesday in just a moment. Then we'll do our usual entertainment stuff, box office, BTV highlights. If we have any time, we'll do some entertainment news discussion. And that'll be Tuesday's show. Next Thursday, an all wrestling show previewing WWE's Payback pay-per-view, which will be coming to you live from Chicago on Sunday, May 1st on the WWE Network and pay-per-view, obviously. We'll be previewing the card, doing what we usually do, questions, comments from the listeners, from the fans, I should say. So if you want a question or comment that you want to submit before the show, you can do that. By email, Facebook, or Twitter before the show, and also during the show next Thursday as well. So that's what's coming up next week on our show. And the week after, the week after, we'll only have one show. That'll be on Tuesday, Sports Entertainment Combo. Basically the same deal as you're getting on Tuesday, just with some wrestling stuff in there as well. And then remember that Thursday, May 5th, we will be preempted. Okay, so get some insight into what's coming up, not only tonight, but in the weeks to come here as well as we head into May, which is sweeps month. Woohoo. All right. So with all that being said, let's jump right in here. We will start off as we always do with the box office. And it's nice that we don't have to really lead with a headline that involves Batman versus Superman, although it did drop once again substantially, pretty much cementing the fact it won't come anywhere near $1 billion. We're lucky if it makes anywhere near $900 million. And then forget about 400 million worldwide domestic, because that ain't happening either. But anyway, Batman vs Superman drops below 10 million, which is unfathomable, really, considering the competition. And it's going to have to accept the fact that Disney's Zootopia will beat it for worldwide gross, which I think is hysterical. No disrespect to Zootopia, it's a brilliant movie, but you never would have expected that, to be honest. And it barely beat Deadpool worldwide, which is uncanny. But the headline this weekend at the box office was Jungle Book, which we all expected to do well. The critical reception, all the reviews were good. It had a lot of momentum, and the fact that it did $103 million in its opening weekend is shocking. Not shocking because I didn't think it could. Not shocking because we didn't think it would do well. I just think most people didn't see it making above 80, considering the time of year, considering everything that's out. But it had good word of mouth, and IMAX theaters, RPX, all that stuff, 3D, it benefited from it, and it's a movie that actually is something that you might want to see in an IMAX or 3D because it benefits it. It actually it adds to it in some ways. So hey, congratulations to Jon Favreau and the entire cast, and for the other Jungle Book, Andy Serkis's Jungle Book, it's pretty much put that in disarray because now they have no idea if they even want to put that out. I know they invited Alfonso Cuarón on board to kind of help with it. Look, you can wait. I mean, they're going to wait a couple years here, but by the time they wait, that Disney will probably put out the sequel. And it's just going to be very hard to top what they were able to do with this movie. It was so cool. It was a nice mixture of the actual Disney cartoon and the actual Rudyard Kipling material. It was a nice balance, just visually stunning. The most visually stunning thing I think I've seen this year, obviously. Great voice casting. I mean, everything was just, of all the Disney live action stuff I've seen, this was my favorite. It was amazing. I could not, it was very, very enjoyable. So kudos to all involved, and it deserved this. I'm glad it got that 100 million. And it goes to show you if a movie's good, it can do things even in the times here where you even expect it to do that kind of stuff. And it's already made $357.7 million worldwide, well over its $175 million budget, so it's in good shape. Barbershop, Next Cut, pulled in $20.2 million, not as much as they probably thought they were going to get. I think that's a good total, considering what Jungle Book did. As soon as you saw Jungle Book break 90 million, you knew Barbershop wasn't going to get anywhere near 30, which is what I think they wanted to do. but I still think that's a good total based on the competition. The Boss dropped substantially to third, down under 10 million, about 9.9. That was expected. It did very well the previous week, and it's only got a $29 million budget. It's already over 40 million domestic, so it's all right. We spoke about Batman versus Superman. What else can you say? It is what it is. Another 60% drop off. Not much can be said there. Zootopia continued to hold strong, 8.1 million. That movie's held very, very well. Very, very well. It's going to be interesting. You know, it's not going to make $1 billion. It's going to come pretty close. But the fact that it has come close is astounding. It goes to show you the strength of that movie. Another new release last week was a movie called Criminal, starring Kevin Costner, Ryan Reynolds. It's a great caster. It only debuted at 5.7 million, but again, considering Jungle Book and what it did, and Barbershop, and there was just a lot of competition. And again, if certain things overperform, like Jungle Book overperformed based on what we all thought it would do, other movies are going to suffer, and it suffered. It suffered. So that's really there's really not much else that can be said. That, you know, the headline was Jungle Book. Second headline was really the continued collapse of Batman vs. Superman. That's really all you can really say about last week. This coming week, you introduce a new foil to the bunch here as we approach summer movie season 2 weeks out. The Huntsman Winter's War opens in 3,791 theaters from Universal. You know, you've probably seen Snow White. If you know about Snow White and the Huntsman, you know about this. It's already made $43.1 million overseas. Chris Hemsworth, Charlize Theron, Jessica Chastain, Emily Blunt, Nick Frost, and Sam Claflin all star in this film. Directed by Cedric Nicholas Juran, so Rupert Everett not back. $115 million budget. It's going to make that back, especially since it already made $43.1 million overseas. Really, I don't see this doing, and even at the movies, and the reviews aren't horrible for it, but here's the problem. Jungle Book is gonna hurt it. Jungle Book doing what it did last weekend pretty much sealed the deal here. This movie might not do as well as the studio hoped. And I wasn't convinced it was going to do that anyway. But, you know, here's the problem. Movie theaters are not going to be so eager to kick Jungle Book out after what it did last weekend. So the Huntsman's going to have an uphill battle there, and Jungle Book's got the momentum. So Jungle Book's going to win this weekend, and even your figure will probably drop to around 40, 50 million. Huntsman, I'm going to say about 30, 35. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if it's lower. And that's not, and again, with Jungle Book, it just hurt it. You know, without Jungle Book, I could have seen it maybe making about 50, 55. But with Jungle Book, I can't. 35 seems about right. Maybe even even lower. And then after that, you'll probably have Barbershop down there around 9, 10 million, because you know it'll fall. It's always, those movies are always front loaded. And then you'll have The Boss hanging around maybe 7 million. And if Batman vs. Superman keeps doing what it's doing, it's probably going to drop to 5 million or lower. Especially, you know, Huntsman taking probably what's left of the major premium theaters that Batman vs. Superman has left. It would not surprise me if Zootopia holds stronger than Batman vs. Superman. Zootopia ends up at 6 million. Batman vs. Superman ends up at 5 million or lower. It wouldn't surprise me at all. So that's pretty much the way I see it this weekend. The weekend after, you have a couple movies, none of which I think are going to do huge business. You got Key and Peele's comedy movie from Warner Brothers. You have a comedy Mother's Day, which, you know, I don't know if I would have released it that early. I know they're probably afraid of Captain America Civil War, but you probably would have seen enough of an audience if you released it Mother's Day week, but whatever. But it'll probably get some traction. And you got Ratchet and Clank, an animated film, which will probably do okay. So nothing that really looks like something that I think is going to do huge, especially with Captain America Civil War coming out the next week, which you know that'll do well. Probably around 180 to 200 million that we will do. So I think I see Jungle Book three-peating here. I think Jungle Book's going to win the next 2 weekends in three-peat, for sure, until Captain America. So Disney will hold things up until Captain America takes back the title for Disney again. So that's kind of the way I see it going. Yeah, so that's it. Mike, anything to add about last week or this week at the box office?
I haven't seen a movie in like forever. I'm not gonna lie. No, I don't really have anything to say. Jungle Book did what was expected of them, you know, which was to kick ass, take names. Did it make more than expected? Absolutely. Um, there's not really a whole lot to say. Batman vs Superman. Yeah, we know it's in free fall. It's not really that much of a story, now is it?
No.
At this point, how much of it is, hey, it's just beating a dead horse? Yay. We know it's done embarrassingly bad. We know it's held up embarrassingly poorly for this major thing in the universe. You know, it's done horribly, horrendously. You know, what can we say? For something that's supposed to be a Marvel killer, you know, it's done a terrible job actually, you know, killing Marvel. However, that is what it is. It's not surprising. I don't think Jungle Book will repeat in the next weekend. It'll probably repeat this weekend. But I have a hard time feeling that it's going to do it 3 weekends in a row. Captain America is going to come out. It's going to kick ass and be amazing. So that is literally. I was going to see Zootopia, but Captain America is literally like the next thing I'm going to watch. So I don't know. I don't really have too much to add, honestly.
Okay. Yep. So, yeah. So that's that. I mean, there's not much. There's not. I mean, it stands. It really was just Jungle Book's weekend. It did tremendous. And next weekend will probably be its weekend again. So, and for those that are wondering, we will do a summer movie preview, but it'll be the week after Captain America: Civil War comes out. Like I said, you know, sometimes we do it before, sometimes we do it after. You can do it either way. Sometimes it's better to do it after the first big movie comes out. So, all right. So from film, we go to TV, and this week's TV highlights of the week, which I think you start last week. I'll start this week. First of all, I'm going to start with something that, you know, was just completely, and I'm going to try very hard. If you don't want spoilers, please turn off your like headsets now, or whatever, because I might dish out a spoiler here. Really, the only thing that I thought was worth noting this week, two shows, was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and The Blacklist. Let me give Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a shout out first, because it's been a long time, maybe since season 1, that they do something that I think is so, coincidentally, it was the 17th episode of that year, that I think really just changes the dynamic. So, and I know it's not going to end up being permanent, but it's going to lead to something permanent. And they've been hinting at it they've been hinting at it for quite a while now. And, you know, when they got back from their hiatus, it's the show's been good. It's just that you've been waiting for it to get into that, you know, that kind of run where it's like, we're building to something. We want you on the edge of your seat. Here we go. They did it in the first half of the season, and it was throughout. But sometimes, every now and then, it sometimes takes you till you get to the final few episodes, and you're like, oh, here's the big picture. This is getting really, oh my God, you know? Well, that's what they did on Tuesday night. They, you know, the last couple of weeks you can feel the intensity building, and then this week it completely just turned the entire show on itself, and it really rivaled what happened in season 1. It wasn't as big as season 1, but it's the only thing that's come closest to that. When Ward turned on S.H.I.E.L.D., it was just a tremendous shock, and kudos to them for everybody was thinking it was a certain person for the last couple of weeks. We've all been thinking it's somebody, and to use them as the decoy was just a genius thing to do, because I totally bought it. Because they were playing off like a couple other people as, well, maybe it's not the obvious choice. Maybe it's one of these other two. And it's like, oh, nope, it's the obvious choice. Oh, nope, it's the person that you least expected it to actually be. And they left you with one of the most spellbinding visual sequences they've ever done. And if that would have been good enough for a finale cliffhanger, but that's not what they did. So the whole now they're building to this the season finale and a shocking death and apparently the biggest episode they've ever done. They have me hook, line, and sinker with this. This is what they did is just kudos. That was a fantastic episode. If not the best this year, one of the best. And Blacklist did something last week, I think, and we're going to talk a little bit about this later on in the program. Where they killed somebody, and again, maybe you should use air quotes because I'm not convinced she's really dead. Especially since she had her the actress had her baby this week, and it's easy to say.
Tough.
Yeah, and it's easy to say she's on a maternity leave. You know what I mean? I highly doubt they'd fire somebody when they're pregnant. That's just something I don't see happening. But anyway, regardless, the twist itself was shocking. The episode itself was amazing. James Spader was just tremendous. And by the way, I've heard it from a number of people that tonight is his Emmy reel. The whole episode is all James Spader tonight, which that's always a good thing. But it's his Emmy reel. So I'm really interested in seeing what they do with him tonight. But yeah, it was a tremendous episode, and just the image of what that transpired there. And if you haven't seen it, yeah, I'm shocked you probably haven't seen it. But if you watch the show regularly enough, the acting was astounding. It was well plotted. And look, even if it's not permanent, it's still a very big shift to do, and it's an intriguing thing to do for the story and to see where it goes. So. Kudos to the Blacklist, a phenomenal episode. So both those shows, just tremendous. Now I would highlight Arrow and Flash, but I haven't gotten to them yet because I work and stuff. But I will get to them, and I imagine I've heard good things about the Flash, and I think Arrow's on a hiatus this week, right? I don't know. I think Flash was on, and Arrow wasn't. I can't remember. I'm not going to highlight Gotham because I thought it was stupid. But anyway. Yeah, that's my TV highlights. Mike, go ahead.
Hold on. I'm trying to swipe the word hurt. I don't know. My TV highlights of the week. I still haven't seen Arrow yet. Can't bring myself to that. I'm all caught up on Legends of Tomorrow, though. Mostly caught up on Legends of Tomorrow. I think I've got one No, I missed an episode, but it was. I don't know. It could be my DVR. I missed one of the big reveals. Legends of Tomorrow has been pretty good lately. Now that, Rory is, spoiler alert, Rory's back, but not in a way that you might remember him. But he's kind of back with the team now out of necessity, which is fine because I like Dominic Purcell and Wentworth Miller working together because they're amazing together. So we're going, it's fairly interesting. So this episode was pretty good from what I remember. Setting some things up. Let's see. The Grinder. Good Lord, The Grinder. Speaking of things that have been really, really good lately, if you're not watching The Grinder with Rob Lowe and Fred Savage, I don't know what to tell you. That show is just on a roll. It's utterly hilarious. It's great. It's irreverent. You should watch it. They're doing good things on it. Yeah, that was funny. It was a funny show. Grinder had a great week. You should watch it, especially if you're looking for like a half-hour comedy that doesn't suck. Grinder does not suck. Grinder does not suck. It's a great show. Other than that, that's pretty much what I've been watching. Totally worth it. Literally, go watch The Grinder. It's great. Legends of Tomorrow, not bad. So those are my TV highlights, and I don't really have any other TV highlights because a couple episodes back on Flash. It is what it is.
Okay. All right. So now what we're gonna do, okay, because we don't have to really. Well, first, I'm gonna give you all a score up down some of the NBA scores here. We got 2 games ongoing right now. One on TNT, one on NBA TV. The one on NBA TV is at the half. Toronto, Indiana. Toronto 53, Indiana 36. That series, I believe, is tied up at 1 apiece. So Toronto trying to get out in front there in that series. And then Oklahoma City and Dallas on TNT. 7:39 left in the third quarter. Oklahoma City with a 72-57 lead on the Dallas Mavericks. Again, game 3 of that series tied at 1 game apiece. Oklahoma City trying to take back the lead in that series. A former Oklahoma City Thunder coach made some news today. He agreed to be the Wizards coach, that being Scott Brooks. So he will be the Wizards coach, and also Tom Thibodeau will be becoming the Timberwolves coach and president. Great signing there for them. And another thing too, Stephen Curry is going to miss Game 3 tonight versus the Rockets for his ankle. Which again, be cautious with it. They're already up 2-0 in that series. This is Game 3. That Game 3 coming up at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on TNT tonight. Golden State and Houston in Houston. So make sure you tune in for that game if you are interested tonight. So that's the way of the land in the NBA. I'll keep you updated on those scores while we're on the air tonight. And again, Western Conference games start on TNT. Oklahoma City and Dallas are playing right now on TNT, and then later on tonight, Golden State and Houston, and then Toronto and Indiana on NBA TV right now. Okay. So again, entertainment news we're going to get to if we have some time. We'll cover a couple little things, but otherwise, again, that depends on if we have time. Instead, what we're going to talk about here, and this is our spotlight feature that I was talking to you about, and I was going to do something. I mentioned this on Tuesday and last Thursday as well. There's something else I had in mind, but again, it was dependent on a piece of news getting out, and it hasn't yet, so we can't do it. So we went with my plan B here. This is something that a lot of you have been asking us about. A lot of you, more specifically, like more specific terms, like certain situations, a lot of things over the last couple months or so. You've asked, like, with American Idol ending and possibly coming back, would that kind of would that mean a resurgence of reality competition, or would that bring the singing shows kind of back from where they tend to be going right now? And then and also in TV, you see a lot of TV shows are killing off main characters. A lot of them. Is that? I mean, why is that? Sometimes it's claimed it's budget, sometimes it's storyline. There's always rumors that an actor or actress is had a falling out with a writer or whatever, a producer or something. What is the reasoning for it? Because there's a lot of that. What's going on with Castle and Stana Katic and some other cast members. Nicole Bahari just got killed off of Sleepy Hollow. Agents of Shield's looks like they're going to kill off somebody big at the end of the season. Blacklist looks like they killed off somebody. Again, I doubt that that's the case, but just the fact that they, Game of Thrones makes a habit out of doing this. Walking Dead, it's a thing. But those shows, that's kind of their thing. But you're seeing across broadcast TV, Grey's Anatomy's killed off a couple big. I mean, a lot of broadcast TV shows are killing off main characters now. So is that something that you're going to see happen? Our writers, our network execs, no longer letting? Is this about power? Are some of these network execs saying to some of these actors, you know what, you're expendable? Doesn't matter how important it seems like you are to the fans, you're expendable. I mean, what is the reasoning for it? And will that continue? And scripted TV's kind of had a resurgence on broadcast TV. A lot of it driven by comic book shows. Will that continue? And this is just TV stuff. There's also film to think about as well. And people keep asking me about the comic book movie boom, because that's what's driving cinema right now. Cinematic universes, are they, how long are they going to be a thing? Will people continue to do that? That seems to be all the rage right now in Hollywood, is having these expanded universes for anything, even fairy tale properties. Universal is going to do a horror movie characters in a cinematic universe. Robin Hood's going to do a cinematic universe, expanded universe. How far is this thing going to go? Will this become oversaturation in comic book movies? A couple of these things we've already talked about, but as you go along, sometimes they evolve. And let me first broach the film topics first, because I think they're a little bit easier to handle. And a couple of you have asked specific questions, and I will bring a couple of questions into it as we go along here. On the subject of, because that seems to be the driving thing, is cinematic universes. I think we talked about this over the years here. I don't think you're going to see them go away, because I think that, it's almost like bringing serialized television into film form. And I think people like that. I think people like that because it's an ongoing story. And I know there's some people, especially critics, that don't like it. They feel like, oh, well, this movie's just a setup for another movie. The trick is to make a movie, set up other movies, but still make the movie kind of self-contained. If you can do that, then I think you're okay. If you can't, then I think you risk alienating people. But and you can do it. It's just, you just gotta be cognizant of balancing things out. But yeah, I mean, it's always at the end of the day going to depend on the property. I can sit here and say, well, and I like Robin Hood, so I don't mean to bash it, but I can sit here and say that making a cinematic universe out of Robin Hood properties is ridiculous. But it could end up working, depending on who you cast and what you do and what you develop. And, obviously franchises like Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, that those things are going to work out because these characters are brand names. But you go into lesser things like the Universal horror pictures. I think those are actually going to work out very well because they're throwbacks. They're kind of like retro. And I think there's an audience for that if you do them right. There's an audience for that. I think the Mummy movie is going to have Tom Cruise, so that's going to help. I think there's an audience. It really just depends on the property and how you develop it and who you bring in, and anything could work out if you have the right people behind it. Even some of the ideas that seem like the stupidest could end up coming off the page and being great. The Lego movie, I thought it was a stupid idea. I'm like, what are you doing? And ended up being brilliant. So again, it's just about taking what you have and making something out of it that is quality. And if you have the right people, the right creative minds, I think you can do it. So do I think that cinematic universe are going away? No. Do I think they're going to keep kind of blossoming? Yes. Do I think that that's a bad thing? No, I don't. As long as the right people are involved and you got the right properties, I think they're fine. You think something's past potential? Go for it. As for comic book movies, which seems to be the other prevailing theme, I think the question is always, well, comic book movies in general, but I don't think you're going to see the end of comic book movies. But the future of some of these movies is very much in question. Everybody keeps asking, you think about Marvel. What happens after Infinity War Part 2? Where do we go? Well, okay, we got Doctor Strange, and we got Ant-Man now. We got Spider-Man now, and the Inhumans. And, okay, Miss Marvel, and so on and so forth. All right, fine, but what's the end game after that? Everything has been building towards Thanos and Infinity War. What's the end game after that? Okay, well, you probably got to develop a new villain. All right, well, there's a lot of villains you can use. But what about some of these characters that have been huge over the last 10 years? Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, who made news today. He will be appearing in the new Spider-Man movie. What about Chris Evans as Captain America? What about Chris Hemsworth as Thor? Or Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, or Mark Ruffalo as the Incredible Hulk? What about these characters? What happens to them? Are they in it for the long haul? Are they going to keep having movies? Are they going to keep being part of Avengers? What do you do here? And I think that kind of uncertainty. See, the thing about it is Marvel has spent 10 years building itself up. that they're going to have a little bit of leeway. And even if they go through a slump, their slump is going to be a successful slump. They're going to probably make good profits. Whereas DC's going through a slump right now because and who knows how they get out of it. You know? So I think Marvel's future is bright. And there's a bunch of different graphic novel things and that you can do that could be good too, comic book wise, you know. And then you look at DC, and what do you do there? We've already talked ad nauseum about it. I don't want to. You know, Mike said the phrase earlier. I think it's good. Be a dead horse. You know, the obvious thing is to reboot it again, but you just did. You just rebooted everything. You know, I almost wish you could X-Men Days of Future past it. You know, and that might be the way out. Some kind of time vortex thing or something, you know, and then rebuild it again with a different person at the helm, because that's really the problem, is who's at the helm. You got lucky in that you casted Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman and Ben Affleck as Batman and a couple other things, you know, and those ended up being good. You know, we'll see. I mean, that's probably the biggest question mark for comic book movies is DC. X-Men got their stuff in their junk in order. They're fine now. You know, especially with Deadpool now. I mean, X-Men's fine. It's really just DC that doesn't seem to have their affairs in order. I think it's kind of funny. You know, even Sony got smart. It's like, oh, okay, we'll let Marvel have influence, and we'll see what happens. And look what happened. Spider-Man's going to take off like gangbusters in about a couple of weeks. So they're not going away. I know there's a lot of people that wish they probably would. They're not, you know, because there's always going to be an audience for these characters. They're brand name characters. I mean, look at Spider-Man. Even the reboot. No matter how many times they reboot it, the audience is going to be there. They're just brand names. Outside of the comic book movies, you know, you got fairy tale movies. You got Disney and their live action pursuits, which are just driving huge business. And their animated pursuits, which are driving huge business, and that's going to continue. I mean, look, people, the Disney brand itself, it's can't miss. Like Marvel at this point, it's can't miss. You know, I know Fox is going to bank a lot on what James Cameron does with Avatar, which I don't know how intelligent that is, but they've been banking on that for a while. You know, and there's other franchises like the Bourne franchise, James Bond. I mean, and those franchises ain't going to go away either. It's a very franchise-driven Hollywood now. And I think that's the way it's going to stay for at least the next decade. Yeah, you're going to have your movies here and there that succeed, but it's going to be franchise-driven. And if you think about it, it's always been about finding franchises. Franchises are good for business. They're guaranteed money. You establish one, you can keep it going. And spin off from it if you want. But see, that's the thing. Spin-offs didn't happen that often. Now they do, because people are like, oh, yeah, you know, if this franchise worked and, you know, and we feel like it's gotten to a place, the original franchise has gotten to a place where we don't want to really go about approach it anymore, you can spin off from it. Maybe there's a character there that's popular. You can spin off from it and start a whole new franchise. And that's where the whole cinematic universe stuff comes from. So it's a franchise-driven market. It's going to continue to be a franchise-driven market, and it's really just good business, to be honest. All right, so I mean that's really the movie side thing. I didn't bring too many specific questions into it. I kind of addressed them just in general. Mike, do you have anything to add?
About, excuse me. About specifically when you're talking about main shit, I need tissues in there. So when you're talking about TV actors and the trend of killing main characters off, honestly, at this point, for shows like Sleepy Hollow, Arrow, Castle, you're gonna hear like, oh well, you know, money is an issue. You can hear writing. In a sense, it's just maybe not so much with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Maybe not so much. And not so much with Game of Thrones because all of these deaths are canon. George R. R. Martin really gets off on it. But for shows like Castle and Arrow and Sleepy Hollow, it just shows how desperate the writers have become. They're kind of, it's like the Vince Russo method of writing. It's very for sure.
Yeah.
A little buzz by doing something major for a short-term increase, and hope the same old BS keeps them there for the rest of the series. The whole point of Castle was Richard Castle and what's Statocatic's name on Castle? Beckett.
Beckett.
The whole part of that is the relationship between Beckett and Castle. The whole part of Sleepy Hollow was Abigail. Was it Abigail?
Abby and
Abby
and Ichabod.
It was Abby and Ichabod. They were the two watchers. They had the plot armor. The whole thing is, how are they going to stop the apocalypse? Not how Ichabod Crane solo is going to stop the apocalypse. Because it was A and B. Arrow was just hack writing. Arrow was hack writing. I mean, it's no spoiler. Katie Cassidy's gone from the show. That was just hack writing. That's getting rid of a character, even though they're like, well, our universe is different than the mainstream Green Arrow universe, but you don't kill off a character as major as Katie Cassidy's character, because her character was instrumental, essential to the Green Arrow. And her character's name is so important to the Green Arrow lore. It's almost like when they thought it was a good idea to break up Mary Jane Parker and Peter Parker in the comics. Hey, that's doing great for you. Thumbs up for bad decision making. It's a short-term hackneyed writing to kind of shock viewers into paying attention to them again. In ways that they didn't need. This was Castle's last season anyway. This was Sleepy Hollow's last season anyway. Arrow, I don't even understand. They just gave in to fandom demands, and that fandom is slowly and surely killing the show. Slowly and surely. To the point where Stephen Amell looks like he'd rather promote Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 Out of the Sewer over Arrow. Michael Bay. In part, yes, it's the writers. On some level, it is the writers saying, "Yeah, we have control over the story." Ha ha ha! You know, we're the real stars. On the other hand, it's desperation. For a lot of these writers, it's desperation. People now they don't have enough eyes, so like, well, we need to do something desperate to kind of keep people in. So for some of these people, it is desperation. Even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on some extent, it's desperation. Because they feel like if they don't have all of these twists and these turns, they can't stay relevant in the Marvel Universe. Because that first season really messed them up. So now, you need all these twists and you need these turns. And like, oh, well, this is happening this week. And boom, this is happening this week. And boom, this is happening this week. And boom, Malik's doing what? Boom, Coulson and Malik. Boom, Coulson and singing Toxic in an airline stewardess's outfit. Gosh, wow, all these things is happening on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh my gosh. It's like, if you don't really pay attention to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you're going to get confused and you might drop the show. For instance, I'm the only one in my household, generally, who still watches Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because all of the twists and the turns, and if you don't keep up with every little thing, every little twist and turn to kind of generate interest, you lose interest. I like Coulson. I think Coulson's one of the best characters in the MCU. But I don't have to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So if I can't keep up, then I'm losing interest. Because there's just too much going on. In essence, Agent Carter was a little bit better in that way because it was so focused on all right, this is the main storyline, this is the main villain, this is what's going to happen, this is happening to Peggy, it's all going to tie together. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you've got this. So in a way, it is desperation. Same thing with Game of Thrones. It's desperation. Same thing with Walking Dead. It's just shock viewing to kind of keep you interested. Oh, did Glenn die? Did the guy who looks like Seamus die? Did Rick die? Did Michonne die? Did Norman Reedus' character die? Because we will riot. It's that whole shock aspect to kind of keep people interested in the show. And some shows have it down to a science. Like, God, Game of Thrones and Walking Dead, when they go off and they come back, are huge. They're huge. They generate huge buzz. So on some level, it works. The Arrow death has been overwhelmingly met with negative reaction. There aren't a lot of people who like that one. And even more people are like, oh, why didn't Felicity die? So, I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, hey, go ahead and tell me. I don't mind. But to be fair, I have not seen a whole lot of positive reaction to the Arrow death. There's not a whole lot of positive reaction to the Castle death. People don't really care about Sleepy Hollow anymore. Sleepy Hollow had me for 1 season, 2 seasons, and the second season was kind of I like John Nabel. Excuse me. So it's the shock kind of viewership. It's desperation on behalf of the writers. Yes, there is some arrogance on behalf of the writers. Yes, in some cases it is due to budgetary concerns.
Right.
Even though some of these shows, it's their last season.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you keep them or not. But it is simply what it is. And it's disappointing that shows have to go to this extent. I mean, even like, I'm not even going to include the Blacklist for the same reason I put it on that same level as Person of Interest. The actresses in question left for the same exact reason. They were pregnant and they were having children. It's a natural part of life, and it's more important than any fiction they put on. Does that mean it's permanent? No, because in both cases, it's implied the characters are out there somewhere and are possibly coming back. Spoiler!
Yeah.
It is what it is. So it's not surprising and in the least that this is the case. Not at all.
Right.
So, excuse me. So it is desperation. It is embarrassing. It's hackneyed writing at times. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, well, then you're just looking like idiots and assholes and asshats. I wanted to say asshole, but I also wanted to say ass hat at the same time. So I just didn't know what to say. So I said both now.
I like how I was talking about film and you went right to TV. But that's okay. That's okay.
Okay. Well, what else? What is there to say about film?
No, there isn't.
It's like, yes. Well, the truth is this: the comics. You were right on. The comics, the comic book movies, and these franchise movies are the ones that are driving current cinema. Unlike what the Academy of Arts and Sciences would like you to believe, nobody's going to the fucking theater and dropping $1 billion. No audience is dropping $1 billion for whatever latest Weinstein award bait poop project is going on right now. It's not happening.
Right.
They're going out to drop $1 billion for characters they know. What is it for beloved Marvel characters like Iron Man? Look, that's on Downey. Does Marvel want to have another Iron Man movie? You bet your sweet ass they do, especially since Iron Man 3, which was not very good, made $1 billion fucking dollars. You mean to tell me Marvel does not want another one of those? Yeah. In some cases like that, it is up to the actors involved. Let's not be stupid here. Marvel wants another Iron Man movie. Iron Man is going to be in all these other films to boost the profile, but let's face it, Marvel really, really, really wants another Iron Man movie. Whether or not it happens is exclusively on Robert Downey Jr.'s shoulders, and there are hints that he wants to do another one. There are hints that he kind of wants to move away from it for a while. Who knows? Is Spider-Man going to make $1 billion? I don't know. We've had about 5 Spider-Man movies, and they've come close. Is this one related to the other ones? No. Does it matter? No. Doctor Strange is going to do gangbuster business. Black Panther will do great business on some level. Look, if you want to know the next non-Avengers movie, and maybe even non-Captain America's, I think Civil War. Civil War is technically an Avengers movie. Let's not kid ourselves here. Look, Guardians of the Galaxy is probably going to make $1 billion now.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy is going to make a hella bank.
Yeah.
That's the one. Look, after Civil War and maybe and on some level Doctor Strange, especially if you're a big Cumberbatch fan like I am, you really are waiting for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. 2. That's it. That's really it. Comes out next year, thank God. We needed it this year, but hey, why not?
Yeah.
That's the one we're all waiting for, but if you do it right, comic book movies are going to be fine. They will drive the box office. If you don't do it right, like Batman versus Superman, well,
see what happens.
What happens is people go see it. They won't give you the benefit of the doubt, and boom, they're gone. Oh well. So previously it was book movies, Hunger Games, Allegiant, Harry Potter. Now it's comic book movies. So, yeah. And previously it was big sweeping fantasy epics like Lord of the Rings and Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Can we go back to that? That'd be great.
Yeah. As long as they're done right.
Right.
Well, I mean, look, I all that. I think you're right. I think we said all we could say about film. But as far as TV goes, here's the thing. You brought up some good points, and then some points that I think are a little. It's not so. If you look at what a show like Arrow did, okay, that was pure and utter shock value.
Bullshit.
They didn't even know who they were going to kill until 2 weeks before they actually did it. See, I don't mind. Look, shows are going to kill characters. That's going to happen, all right? It's going to happen, whether we like it or not. And that's not shock-driven writing. That's writing. Eventually, you're going to kill a character. The issue is if it comes out of nowhere and there's no build-up. If that character, if there's no storyline reason for that to happen, if it's just, we need to kill somebody. Like Sleepy Hollow, there was no storyline reason to kill that character off. I watched the last 2 episodes of that season. There was no reason to kill off Abby. There was none, at all. It was just we needed the arc to matter, so we just killed her off. Translation, I think there was problems between her and allegedly. I don't have any concrete evidence, but I think there was issues there, based on what I've been reading. Castle the same way. There might be issues there. But still, there's been issues. There's been rumors of Beckett or Casso or both being ousted from the show for a couple years now. I don't know how they have a show about Nathan Fillion, but hey. Walking Dead and Game of Thrones is the very nature of those shows. It's the source material. Characters die all the time. It happens. It's part of the story. The only difference, the TV show does it better than the comic a lot of times because they actually give you more storyline, and they build up to
Still
it better.
shock value though.
Yeah, but that's
Still shock value though.
All right, it's a zombie show. What do you want to do? Not kill anybody? I mean, that's
I'm just saying it's still shock value. It's
Right.
kind of there to hook you in because it's the
Right.
whole thing. You never know who's going to
Right.
last.
right. Well, that's but you can't change the narrative. But
Well, I'm not saying you change the narrative. I'm just saying it's part of the nature of the show.
right, okay. Well, here's the other thing. All right.
You get on me for criticizing your wife's favorite show. God, Brian.
Actually, it's one of my favorites too. But relax.
No,
here's the thing.
I'm disintegrated by you more. Never mind. It's fine. Go. Keep talking.
As long as it's the story, and there's a reason for it to happen. I don't care if you kill off the main character of the show. It needs to matter. All right? It can't just be, well, we need to kill somebody off because we introduced this arc. That's not like Arrow did or like Sleepy Hollow did. Those are not good. That's not good writing. I'm sorry. That's not good writing. That's just throwing something out there and hoping it sticks. Well, we got to kill somebody off. Oh, well, who do we not like? Or you know what? Well, that one will make the biggest shock. Oh, well, let's kill that person off. And then you got shows that actually build up to it. Like what Blacklist did last week, I think they've been building up to it. Even though they knew that she was, even if she's not dead, they knew the maternity leave. They've been building up to it for weeks. That something bad. We were going down this road that something bad was going to happen. And it's going to build to a story. You know that. That show is so intricately plotted. There's no way it won't be. You look at Person of Interest. They kill somebody off. There's build up and it matters. It matters. Doctor Who, same thing. I don't watch the show, but I know for a fact it matters. If it happens, it matters. There's a story from it.
True.
It is. When West Wing did it, it matters. Stuff like that matters. I will disagree with you on one thing with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter. Agent Carter's only on like 8 to 10 episodes a year. S.H.I.E.L.D. has 22. And they have more characters, so there's going to be more stories going on. They usually have one big arc a year. Last year it was every half a season there's one big arc. The first half of the season it was the planet. This half of the season it's what agent's going to die in Hive. Everything else kind of filters through that one arc. And they've known since last June who they're going to kill. It's a planned storyline what they're going to do. Agent Carter's the same, except they do it in a more condensed manner. The Marvel shows have, and it's mostly because everything has to go through the same universe. The movies, the TV, all interconnect. They all have to know, they all have to talk to each other, and they have to plan like, well, you're going to use this character. Okay, we're going to kill this character off because that's where the storyline's going. They all have to be on the same page or it's going to get screwed up. So they kind of have a checks and balances system, unlike the DC shows who don't do that. It's like, well, all right, well, if you come up, well, it doesn't mean anything because the movie and the TV show are not connected, so whatever. But it needs to matter, and I think that's something that's getting lost here. Some shows it does matter. Some shows they actually write the stuff the right way, and they plot it out, and it matters. Some shows it doesn't. It's not a bad trend if it matters. If it's good writing. It's only a bad trend when some of them don't. So I wouldn't call it a bad trend. I would just call it a very inconsistent trend because people are not, the writers, producers, etc., are sometimes letting their own feelings for an actor or actress get in the way of what's best for the show, number one. And number two, if they're going to write, even if they want to go there with a character, they're not writing it the right way. And that's a problem. So therein lies the problem. It's not bad if it actually is done right. Now, that's on the trend of killing off main characters. As for the American Idol thing, we talked about it last week. I don't think, even if Idol comes back, I don't think you're going to see a sudden resurgence of singing shows. What you might do is The Voice is going to stick around for a few more years. It'll be its own entity. And if it look, the only way it ends up having a resurgence of singing competition shows if it does what the first one did, which is get 20 million viewers a week. If it averages 10 to 13, it ain't gonna do nothing. And reality competition hasn't gone away. Survivor's still around, Dancing with the Stars still. There's still a lot of reality competition on TV. It's just that it's not as plentiful, and it's only a few are left over. You know, a few have stayed the course and managed to survive. And that's what happens in all genres. Eventually, the reality competition genre will jump up again and and have a resurgence. All genres do. Procedurals went away. They came back, and a lot of them have stayed. Some of them haven't. Comedies went away. They made a comeback. Dramas went away. They made a comeback. You know, certain things medical dramas, stuff like that. They come and go. Eventually, all things come back. It's just they come back in a different form, in a more modernized, contemporary form. The thing about it is you're fighting a broadcast TV for the last 15 years was fighting against cable. Now it's fighting against Netflix and Amazon and online viewing, because if you think that cable can get away with things, the internet can get away with more. And now cable and broadcast network are both fighting against one foe, and that's internet broadcasting. Because they can do things that networks can't. And here's the thing, you know, networks is for as much crap as you might give certain TV shows. It's not always up to them. They have to report to the networks. Networks want certain things, focus group information, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's too much politics and too much politics in networks that gets in the way. Whereas on the internet, sometimes you got more creative control and you can do the things you want to do with your show. It's really that simple. So, you know, I think, you know, a lot of people think, oh, broadcast TV will go away and then eventually, no, none of these things are going to go away. It's just that you're going to continue to see cable and broadcast try to evolve to try to keep up with what the internet's doing. And they each have, I know cable can do far more than broadcast TV can. And you'll probably see them be very aggressive in trying to meet what internet TV is doing. But how far will broadcast network go? How far can they push the boundaries, especially in this PC era? I don't know. And that's going to be I think that's going to be the biggest question over the next 10 years or so is that. Because they're going to have to push the boundaries and be edgier if they want to keep up. And I don't know how far they're willing to go to do that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's anything that you all brought up that I haven't addressed. Mike, you have anything to add?
Nope.
Okay. So I hope that for those of you that, you know, were interested, you know, in the topic and asking some specific terms and stuff of weight and all that, you know, I mean, specific things and such. I hope we addressed a number of your, again, some of you might be a little more specific. We went a little more broad, but it is what, you know, hopefully, you enjoyed it and it was beneficial to you and it helped with some of those questions, even if we weren't as specific as some of your questions were. Okay. All right. So again, there were a couple entertainment news things. I mentioned one of them today, earlier today in the show. Robert Downey Jr. was in the news a lot today. He is joining Spider-Man Homecoming. Michael Keaton, who was in talks, is not. He was in talks to be the villain. He is not. But Robert Downey Jr. will be in Spider-Man Homecoming. So that's one piece of news. The other piece of news involving Robert Downey Jr. is that he will officially return for Sherlock Holmes 3. And he said they're going to attempt to make it this year. They're going to try to film it later this year. They've been working on it. It's been a case of not everybody can seem to get together to film it, but it looks like they're going to get Sherlock Holmes 3 off the ground later this year. So Downey Jr. in the news today quite a bit. He's going to be in Sherlock Holmes 3, which we all suspected, and he's going to be in Spider-Man. So, Mike, you're going to get your Downey Jr. fix.
Who would have thought that we would have gotten 3 series of Cumberbatch's Sherlock before we got the 3rd Sherlock Holmes movie from Downey? That's shocking. They're even working on series 4 right now. So there's a great chance 4 series of Sherlock, which is well known for taking fucking forever. is going to have 4 series and 1 special out before Sherlock Holmes 3. Am I happy, though? Yes, because the first 2 Sherlock Holmes movies were actually pretty good. Pretty well done. So it's interesting to see where they'd go from there.
That it? Wow. Okay. You could at least let me finish my text. No, I was kidding.
No, fuck that.
Yeah, listen. I've been kind of upset with the progress of Sherlock Holmes 3. Even though, the second one came out quite quickly after the first one. Which kind of spoils fans because, usually, I mean, sometimes these things do take this long, but obviously not. I mean, I'm not convinced that they're going to get this thing off the ground because it's not just up to Downey Jr. There's other people involved too. I'm hoping they do because otherwise it's not going to happen for a couple more years because he's going to be locked up in Infinity War. He wants to try to get this in before they start filming Infinity War 1 and 2. So, as for the Spider-Man thing, based on what I heard, I'm not surprised. And I think that's going to help the movie. They want to, they recognize that people are going to be skeptical of Spider-Man, even if he does well in Civil War, like the reviews are saying. By putting Robert Downey Jr. in it, you ensure that people are going to come to the box office and give the movie a chance. So that's clearly what they were trying to do. I am upset that Michael Keaton's not going to be in it because I thought he would have been I don't know who the villain's going to be, but I think he would have been great. And it would have been nice to see him go back to a comic book movie. But, hey, it is what it is. Also on the superhero front, apparently Sci-Fi is planning a pilot for DC Comics' Krypton series, which will be set 200 years in the past and will follow Superman's grandfather. Oh, Mike, I'm sure you're interested in that.
Nope.
How the hell did Sci-Fi get the rights to that? That's interesting. Wow, Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and we were talking a lot about cinematic universes, but now I should say that Hasbro has decided to make a cinematic universe. They've enlisted some Marvel Studios writers and more to help with it. And among their cinematic universe will be G.I. Joe, Micronauts, Visionaries, Mask, and Rom Space Knight.
Then you better get a third G.I. Joe movie out soon. What's The Rock doing?
A lot.
Yeah, right. Question.
And again, we could sit here and a lot of you might look at this and go, "This sounds stupid. Why would they do this?" I mean, G.I. Joe speaks for itself. I mean, it'll be fine. But anything can work with the right people, and bringing some Marvel people in, not the worst thing in the world. So. And one last thing I just want to touch on here, because we mentioned it earlier in the show tonight. Alfonso Cuarón is being brought on to help Andy Serkis' Jungle Book movie. He is not going to help direct it. He's just giving some notes to help make the movie better, the best version of it can be. Keep in mind the Andy Serkis version was supposed to be a little bit more closer to the actual book, not so much the cartoon, whereas the current Jungle Book movie that's out in theaters is more a mix of the two. Again, this movie has a good cast of voice actors and such, mo capture, all that stuff going on, same kind of deal, but good voice cast. It's like the current movie out. It's got, Andy Serkis is directing, but he also played Baloo. Frida Pinto's in it. Matthew Reese, Christian Bale, Kate Blanchett, Benedict Cumberbatch, Tom Hollander. So it's got a good cast. But again, and it's not coming out to 2018 now, but again, it's got hard it's a hard act to follow what happened this weekend with Jon Favreau's Jungle Book. But it's just unusual. A lot of people ask me about this. Is this unusual? No, it's not. A lot of times directors do this, or writers even do this kind of stuff, and just don't get credit. Alfonso Cuarón is not going to be credited. They've already made that known. He will not be credited. It's just that this happened to get out. Normally, this kind of stuff doesn't get out. It's you have ghost writers, ghost directors, that kind of thing. So it's not that big of a deal, and he's very good at visuals and stuff. So and even though Andy's really good at the mocap stuff and everything, it's not the worst thing in the world to get another director on board to kind of pick their brain and see what you can do. So not at all worrisome. They have other things to worry about more so than having Alfonso Cuarón help their project. But yeah, so all right, I think that's pretty much it. I think we covered everything we wanted to cover. I mean, kind of throughout some entertainment stuff here. Let me give you one quick score update once more before we wind down here. Yeah, the NBA here. Oh, Kurt Schoen got fired from ESPN. I thought he already did. Huh. Okay. All right, 113-92, Oklahoma City over Dallas with 5:52 left in the fourth. That game on TNT. Oklahoma City trying to take a 2-1 lead in that series. Looking good so far there. NBA TV, their game tonight out of Eastern Conference playoffs features Toronto and Indiana. Series tied 1 game apiece. Toronto leads 81-63 with 8 minutes and 51 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Again, that game on NBA TV. If Toronto wins, they will take a 2-1 lead in that series. So Toronto looking good, Oklahoma City looking good. Later tonight on TNT at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Actually, already on the way. Well, hasn't on the way yet, but it will be getting on the way soon. Golden State and Houston. Golden State leads that series 2-0. That will take place from Houston. Stephen Curry will not play in that game. Again, that game on TNT. So that's your score updates. And again, check the channels that I just listed if you're interested in any of those games. All right, as always, just because the show is over does not mean you have to stop interacting and contributing to our show. Continue to have your voice heard by emailing us, tweeting us, or Facebooking us, your reactions, your comments, things we said on the show, topics we discussed on the show, questions about the show and scheduling of the show, topic ideas or breaking news items from sports, entertainment, wrestling you want to make sure we cover. Any of these things you can do by email, Facebook, and Twitter. You can email us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtags, hashtag itspotlight411, hashtag ITS5, which represents our 5th anniversary year as a podcast. Or you can use hashtag ITS, whatever you want. You know, ITS wrestling, ITS basketball, any of those things. Be creative, have fun. Just don't be offensive, please. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 401 on Facebook. Make sure you like our page upon finding it. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest information about our show, especially as it relates to schedule. That's the best way to get scheduling information. So we postpone the show or delay it last minute. So make sure you follow us on Facebook and Twitter so you can have that information available to you. As far as keeping up with the show or checking out past episodes, if you're somebody that's only interested in our episodes from Google Plus and YouTube, which is anything from the middle of October until tonight's episode, the most recent episode, and you're somebody that maybe likes the streaming aspect of things, Google Plus, YouTube, you know, you like seeing us on screen or, you know, whatever the case may be. If any of those pertain to you, then you want to check us out on Google Plus and YouTube. Just search for In the Spotlight 411. You'll have access to our channels on both sites. And you'll be able to access all the episodes from mid-October when we debuted here on Google Plus and YouTube all the way up to tonight's episode. So whether you missed an episode, want to check out an episode again, whatever the case may be, that's one way in which you can keep up with our show, especially for our more recent episodes. So make sure you check us out on Google Plus and YouTube. If you're somebody that wants to check out real classic episodes of our show back from when we were known as In the Spotlight with Brian Gardner, which is anything from October 2010 all the way through the middle of October of last year, middle of October 2015, you can check us out on Podbean or iTunes. On Podbean, search for us under our current title, In the Spotlight 411. You'll have access to not just past episodes from October 2010 all the way to October 2015, but you'll have access to recent episodes as well, including everything from Google Plus and YouTube, transferred completely into audio. So everything from October 2015 till now is also on there. Everything's on there from the most recent date to the oldest. So tonight's episode will be right at the top. So, you know, even if you're just somebody that likes the audio podcast, maybe you don't like seeing us on screen, you prefer to listen to us so you can listen to us on the go. Or you're just somebody that's a new fan that wants to check out old episodes of our show to see what we were about, or you're a longtime fan that wants to check out really old episodes from 4 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever the case may be, you can check us out on Podbean to search for In the Spotlight 411. You can also check us out on iTunes, but do keep in mind, we have 2 separate pages. We are working on consolidating them. If you're looking for anything from October 2010 through middle of October 2015, you want to search for us under our old title, In the Spotlight with Brian Gardner on iTunes. And if you're searching for anything from mid-October 2015 until tonight's episode, tonight's current episode here, then you are searching for us under our current title, In the Spotlight 411. And you'll be able to find those episodes. And again, they're all in order from the most recent date to the oldest. We are working on consolidating the pages, so make sure you do keep that in mind here, that there are 2 separate pages. And eventually we'll have them unified under the current title. But right now, that's the way it has to be. So a couple ways in which to keep up with our show: Google+, YouTube, iTunes, and Podbean. So make sure you know all of that information. Again, we are going to have 2 shows. 2 shows next week. A show on Tuesday will be a sports entertainment combo edition. We'll cover anything from sports that we have to cover, mostly NBA playoff stuff. Anything that's transpired in the NBA playoffs, we'll talk about. Anything else sports related that we have to cover, we'll cover. There will be no wrestling covers because of what we're going to be doing on Thursday, so keep that in mind. Entertainment, we'll do box office beat, TV highlights, entertainment news discussion. Anything else from entertainment we have to cover, we will make sure to do that. So that will be on Tuesday. Next Thursday will be an all wrestling show previewing WWE's Payback pay-per-view, which will be coming to you from Chicago on the WWE Network and pay-per-view on Sunday, May the 1st. Again, if you want to submit a question or comment that you want us to, in hopes of it being addressed on our show next Thursday, because we'll preview the card, we'll go over all the matches and make picks and stuff, but we'll also do, as we always do, questions and comments at the end of the show. Obviously, time permits as how many we answer or address, but if you want to send us a question or comment either before the show or during the show to be involved in that particular question and comment segment, you can do that, again, by email, Facebook, and Twitter, so make sure you note that. And then the week after that, sports entertainment combo show on Tuesday, and then that Thursday we will be preempted. So that's a couple of reminders as to what's coming up on our show next week and the week after. I want to thank Mike for being here tonight. Thank you, Mike.
Time for bed. Let's go.
Thank myself for another great show, Pat Slam back, and thank all of you for continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching, and for those that might be listening at some point, to you as well. Whether you're watching or listening and archive, whatever the case may be, thank you. We appreciate all of you, so thank you so much. It's been a tough week for a lot of people, a tough day, so we hope that we kind of could take your mind off some things here tonight. So hope you enjoyed the show. We are done for this week. I hope you all have a great rest of your night, a great weekend, and a great start to week next week. We'll see you back here for our next show this coming Tuesday night, April the 26th at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, broadcasting and streaming live here on Google Plus and YouTube for a sports entertainment combo edition of our show. That's coming at you on Tuesday. Until then, I hope you all have a great night and a great weekend. Stay safe. Talk to you on Tuesday.